Hello and welcome to NCI Live. I'm your host, David Groth, and I'm a technical sales specialist at Network Center. Joining me today is Jason Dahl, who's a senior security engineer here at Network Center. And today our topic is going to be network hardware security. Welcome, Jason. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, David?
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for joining us.
No
I
problem.
want to remind all of the people that are joining us that we are, in fact, live. So if you want to chat us your questions, you're joining us on either YouTube or LinkedIn, please feel free to chat us your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them live on the air. And Jason, being an expert in his field, will happily answer your questions. Either that or I'll make him answer your questions. One of the two.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out.
I'm back. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but that's technology. That's the world we live in. And as I said, I'm remote, so sometimes internet can have a problem. But the wonderful thing is I'm actually broadcasting now instead of from a computer. I'm actually broadcasting from a cell phone. So, and yeah, peel back the curtain, you get to see what's going on. At any rate, Jason, thanks again for your patience.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's talk. Let's pick up back up where we left off. What about hardware? What types of hardware are we talking about when we talk about hardware security?
So when we talk about hardware security, the first and foremost is, you want to overall secure your building. That's number one, of course, because if your building's not secure, nothing inside is secure. So that's just one thing. That's an obvious one. But then within the actual building, you want to make sure that your hardware, like your network switches and servers and firewalls and all of that gear, is in a locked cabinet somewhere that nobody really knows where those things are at, just to protect you, because there are a lot of things attackers can do to, make the hardware work for them to be able to back channel into it and those types of items.
So are we talking, servers, desktops? Can we also be talking about the infrastructure network pieces as well? The switches, routers,
Correct.
firewalls, all of those pieces.
Yep, all of that, is our hardware. Yep.
Right, kind of the fundamentals of the network itself, right? Oh yeah, that's really a big piece. So that said, how would you say that it's? What are some of the common methods that people would use to? I would say attack, but maybe that's not. It's not what we think of as an attack, right? Like we would think of a software attack as being there's a constant attack or a barrage of an attack. How would you say these attacks are different?
Because of the fact
that word, and it right, but
yeah,
how would you say that the compromises are different? Compromise will be a better word.
Normally, yeah, if you have direct access to any hardware that is on that network, you have the keys to the kingdom that you can pretty much, again, there's things that we can do within the system itself to lock it down so that these other items that we would use to try to access them are taken away from us. Like desktops and servers, make sure that the bio password is set, because again, it's about slowing down that attacker when someone has physical access to your network. You want to, even if they're in your building doing maintenance work or things like that, it's knowing that they can't do something quickly by plugging like a USB thumbstick or something like that. So again, it's about deterring them as much as possible on the hardware itself so that they don't have direct access to everything.
Right. Absolutely. Now, how would you say that, this has changed? Because obviously this has always been an issue. I used to say at the beginning of when I was doing network stuff that if you don't have physical security, you don't have security.
Correct.
Right? That if you can't physically lock a door or anything else, you don't have network security. Right? Is that a fair statement?
Correct. Very much so.
Yeah. So, but how has it changed from the past? Like say 15, 10, even 5 years ago? How has this changed?
Because just simply the tools that are on the market now to to actually make the hardware work for you. So there's, 10, 15 years ago, we just didn't have the technology to really, we could do these things. We could, reset the BIOS password or something like that to, again, slow down an attacker. But again, it was big and bulky. And, nowadays with the way computing is, there's more advances in tools that we can use to make that hardware work for us again, to implement or to attack.
Got it. Well, would you also say that because the tools, we have very sophisticated tools for I'm going to say the software aspects, and like for example, penetration testing, remediation. But a lot of these tools now are designed around keeping a close eye on what's going on in our network and keeping a close eye on what's happening. Is our security access being compromised, like our logins and our passwords and things like that? But would you say because of that automation, that can become a weakness?
Oh, very much so. If you're not, if you automatically assume that somebody's watching your back or something like that, again, that's an assumption you're making. Like, are you actually watching your logs, doing these things? That if they see something that's out of the ordinary, that's on your network, are you being alerted to this device? Are you doing proper network discoveries of what is actually hitting the network? Because again, a lot of the tools that you'll use, they're going to use the network to get outbound. So again, that's reviewing, outbound traffic. Like, do we have PCs connecting straight to Russia or China or somewhere else? So those are things too that when you look at the physical security side of the network, is making sure that those devices that someone like myself could use in a penetration test, removing that, we're locking ports that aren't turned on or being used. Because again, like on a network switch, if you unplug a cable, you should always disable that port or have some type of port security on it so that no one can just walk in and plug in, like a little tool like I have that will go in, connect, and then it'll give me a channel outbound that, again, if you're not watching those logs and stuff like that, you're not going to see that traffic happening. So
and that brings up.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm going to say, like, there's a lot of ports that, in larger networks, you may have, and even in small networks, you might have network ports that you don't think about. There might be a network drop in a closet somewhere for a piece of equipment that might no longer exist. But if somebody finds it and they try to plug in, maybe because the computers today, you can get Raspberry Pis this big with a network cable, they could just literally plug it in and forget cables. I mean, how about Wi-Fi?
Yeah, exactly.
Not even in the building. I mean, about, I don't know, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when wireless security wasn't as active, you had ward driving.
Yeah.
Some people don't know that term, but ward driving, running around with in your
little
car
antenna, yeah.
an antenna on the top, looking for open access points. And that was the thing.
Yep, so, I remember those days.
Yep. Fun fact, I actually built a car before this was a thing. Built a car with a built-in touch screen, and it had a full-size computer in it that ran off an inverter and all.
Yeah.
And it had an antenna on the top for war driving purposes. The thing was, it was cute.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it had the war driving software on it. It could receive
just go around and get stuff. Yeah.
That's neither here nor there, but it was fun. Okay, so let's go back to the physical security aspect. So how would we secure some physical access? What are some methods we can do? We mentioned blocking ports, right? And so that's somewhat of a configuration things, right? What other types of securing physical access? What else can we do there? There are items.
Yeah, so with desktops, one of the things you can do is, again, go into the BIOS, disable, like if you're not going to use the USB ports or you're not going to use a certain port on that PC, you can go into that BIOS and disable those things, because like one thing that I always do, again, it's just the way my mind works, is when I walk into a store and I'm standing by a cash register, and again, I'm not going to do anything. It's just more of a curiosity in my mind that I think of these things. And like I said, I have little tools that this is just a USB thumbstick that acts like a keyboard that I just plug in and see.
Can you show a little closer? I want to see that.
Right there. And then a little SD card. And then what this does is it's a keylogger. So once we plug it in, it will launch a payload. And what it will do, again, it will give us that access outside so that I can come in. And again, you're not going to, if you're not watching, I just, got into your network and now I have it. Again, when I'm at a register, like one things that I look at is, are there any USB ports sitting there open? And again, it's just something that, again, it's a curiosity thing in my mind. I'm like, oh, that's something that should be either you're putting a block or something to cover up those ports so that a person like myself that's actually going to do it for bad reasons is able to implement these types of tools. And you want to stop that. Yeah.
Can you do that via, say, like in I'm going to use the Windows terminology, via network policy or something like that, where it's pushed down and you could do it from a global management level? Is that something you can do in that?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
excellent.
Yep. Yeah, because then, because again, if you have a handful of computers, that's a lot of work for yourself. But these large organizations, that's one of the things that we do is we disable USB ports, we disable network jacks to make sure that nobody can get to it. We make sure that all of our equipment is behind locked doors and only certain people have the keys to those doors. Because, you don't want just anybody being able to walk into your server room and not know anything. Because again, we humans, and especially, here in North Dakota, we're trusting people. So again, we could walk into a building and be like, hey, I'm here from corporate. We need to take a look at your guys' networking gear. We saw some fluctuations going on. And a lot of the times, what's scary is that nobody will go and check, is this legitimate? Is this person really supposed to be here to do this? So I'm like, yeah, I mean, these are things that, again, that you may not think happens, truly does happen. And by protecting your physical security and protecting your assets from your customers physically, you're making it harder for an attacker to get into your network.
What I've always found interesting is, and I'm just going to quiz you and see if you can see where I'm going with this. In every movie that has ever been made where a group or an individual needs to get into a company, usually physical security, to get access to the data systems, and that's most likely what we're going. What individual do they impersonate? What group or, say, class of person do they impersonate?
Well, I'm thinking of, was it Sneakers or Skeet?
I'm just going to tell you that. What class of person?
Usually it's your independent, lonelier people, I guess.
No, job position is what I'm going.
Oh, yeah. A technician, a mechanical repair person, a janitor.
That's the
janitor.
Going at.
Yep.
They're going at janitor. They're saying, I'm just here to clean, and they cleaning. They're cleaning around the computers, because most, and this is not a swipe or anything, but most people are, they think it's just they think that they're not going to look at that as just a potential
threat.
A threat. Whereas in reality, any person in a company should be looked at as like, do you need to be here? Do you need to physically have access to these systems or equipment? And that could be not just a server, but a PC, because any PC could be a potential threat if it has access.
Yep.
Right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's the thing too, that you're looking at, that is that, do you trust? Yeah. Does the janitor need access to those rooms? No, they do not.
No. Clean up after yourself.
Yep, exactly.
Break in here for a second, let everybody know. Just remind everybody, we are live. If you have a question, please jump on in here and send us your question via chat. We'll do our best to answer it here. So, what are some, now to get back to it, what are some challenges that if we implement more of an idea around physical security, what are some of the challenges we might face in that area?
Well, and with that too, again, I'll always say that no matter what, if a app group or advanced persistent threat, foreign nation type things, If they want to get into your building, they're going to figure out how to do it. If
Mhm.
they want what you have so badly, they're going to do anything in their power to get in there. But again,
Right.
it's by, making sure that again, the common things that we think of that, lock the doors behind you, have a security system installed, cameras are fantastic, especially nowadays, because with cameras, a lot of the times it's not going locally usually anymore to someone's company. Nowadays, it's actually going straight to the cloud so that you have that imagery to yourself. Again, you have to make sure that it's actually getting sent there. But again,
Mhm.
that's to help your physical security, is that those cameras that are on the outside monitoring your facility, is now getting stored up in the cloud, that you can reach it from home and see. You don't have to be there anymore. You know,
Right.
the deleting the or taking the cassette, VCR tape and stuff like that. That's not the way it is anymore. It's just, so from that aspect
Well,
too, with technology and the speeds that we have, network speeds, is just made surveillance so much easier. Yeah.
yeah. And the one thing that, from a physical security standpoint, that I see is some cameras don't encrypt, like, that you have SD cards that fit in the camera, right?
Hmm.
And so the camera isn't physically secure in some method, or they have that option.
Hmm.
They can take warnings just by popping that SD card out of the camera.
Yep.
So you've got a recording of the layout of the building. And now you can see what's going on in that building over the course of several days just by having that SD card, right?
Yeah. Just that little
So,
little thing that you have. Yeah.
yeah. Now, many these days, many professional level cameras, shouldn't say many, but most, if not all, are encrypting and doing a lot of things that are proprietary.
Hmm.
But that does not necessarily mean, if you really want that information, that you couldn't reverse engineer it. It's still security. It's
Correct.
still something you should not allow out of the building, right?
Yes.
So what kinds of things might we put into a physical security policy? I mean, you've talked about many things, but starting from some simple things, and let's move up to complicated, whether they be technologies or um, just start the simple and work our way up.
Yeah. So again, within your company yourself, you need to know, one, what are we ultimately protecting? Again, it's the need to know. Do we all
Mm,
need to know what's going on no, we don't. But again, it's about giving access to people that you trust, that
mm,
that they're in that role for a reason. Um, and I'm just trying to, because it's how do you monitor everything? Because again, it's, you want to defense in depth. You want to start the outside simple and then get more and more complex as we come inside.
right.
And with those security controls, again, even within the building and the networking gear, again, it's just keeping it out of people's hands and making sure. Well, another big thing too, is a lot of people, this happened to the Air Force all the time. They would go buy a switch somewhere, plug it in, and then they would have 4 other computers connected to it, and we didn't know what they were doing. So these are things too
Yeah,
that, by doing like network access control and things like that, you're making it so that that device can't work. So that if something like that gets plugged in, it's not going to alert or actually send any signal down the wire. And that's by setting up those policies within even your software policies of your routers and switches, to have it so that if I see this happening, I'm not going to allow this to happen, and I'm going to stop that control. Um, you know, for access to our network.
certainly. Let's talk briefly the technologies you mentioned. You mentioned network access control. Now, when many people think network access control, they're just talking about a login. When you and I are talking in relation to the hardware security, we're actually talking something a little bit different.
Hmm.
Can you expound on network access control and what that means?
Yep. So what you're doing here is you're making it so that, again, with your policies that you set, that only certain devices. So if we only buy Lenovo PCs within that complex policy of network, access, we are able to then further drill down into that to make it so difficult. I mean, not difficult. Again, we're just trying to even think of the word right now. We're just trying to control the network as much as possible with either patches being set, and it's going through that quick look to make, hey, you need to connect to the VPN to do this, or or it's
Right.
funneling that PC that came on that's not meeting our compliancy standards. We're able to kind of sandbox it off to the side and allow those
Right.
things to patch it, fix it if there's a virus, and then it'll be allowed to come back onto the network once it's met those requirements. And that's one of the things that we can do with that network access control, is just limit what can come on. And if it doesn't meet our policies and guidelines, it
Yeah.
gets sandboxed off to the side to get fixed.
And by policies, we're talking multiple things. We mean not only company policies, written policies and things,
Correct.
but we're also technical rules that we've written out,
Correct.
that make these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm assuming you mean products such as, and I'm going to give a couple of examples that I've dealt with. ICE from Cisco.
Yep.
It's an acronym. Honestly, I can't remember what it stands for.
Identity, something. Yeah.
Integrated Security something. It's ISE. And then Fortinet from Fortinet. But they basically, with all of their products, and say, okay, you can come onto our network so long as these rules are met. And you can get down to the level of, you have to be in this MAC address list, right? Like, you have to be in this list of authorized computers. And if you're not in the list, you don't get access no matter what.
Correct.
You don't even get an.
You don't even get an. You're just off in their little sandbox area where you can't. You're just stuck in purgatory.
Yep, exactly. Well, we are at the end of our time together.
Okay.
This has been great. It's definitely another aspect. Security, yes. You're always fascinating to talk to when it comes to security, because there's lots of different facets, right? It's always a little different pieces. That security's got a lot of complexity to it. Yeah, and we do. This day and age, a lot to cover. And I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future.
Oh, we will be. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I wanted to let everyone know that upcoming here, we have our annual Envision conference, and you can go look at our website at www.netcenter.net/N, that's N, the letter N, Vision 22, that's 22. It's 3 weeks away. Come on out and join us. It is free to join, free to attend. And our session schedules have been released, so you can see what's coming up, who's presenting. We've got a lot of very exciting topics this week, several on security, several on modern work, a lot of really good presenters. So please come check us out. Then, in addition, as far as our NCI Live goes, if you had further questions on physical security, as well as any other security topics, please feel free to email us at info@netcenter.net. Go to our any of our social media channels on either LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, please like and then subscribe, and then hit the little notification bell so that you get notified when we do go live. Again, Jason, I thanked you many times. I'm going to thank you one more time.
Yeah, nice talking to you, David.
For joining. And come back anytime. We'll talk more security.
Sounds great. So, thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us here on NCI Live. Come back.